Hello, friends. The 731st day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Today is exactly 2 years of war, which has changed everything and forces us every day to rethink our political position, principles, and meaning of life. Many believed in 2019 that the war would change our government and it would finally become Ukrainian. We all hoped. The war has reached enormous proportions, casualties, and destruction, and most importantly, it puts the Ukrainian nation at risk due to a demographic tragedy. The first year of the war was marked by the collapse of the Kremlin's plans for a quick victory in Ukraine. The second year destroyed the plan of Ukraine and the West to quickly defeat Russia. The third year brings us transformation into a protracted war, after which the nation itself may not exist. Yesterday, the media began to report that during a joint special operation between the main intelligence department and the armed forces of Ukraine, a Russian F-50 aircraft was shot down, the second one in recent times. Local public pages published a video of a fire in the Krasnodar region. A video of the moment the plane was hit also appeared. This video shows that the crew was shooting off heat traps. That is, apparently he already had information that he was being attacked. Later, the Ukrainian armed forces officially stated that this was a joint special operation with the main intelligence department, without mentioning what weapons were used. In general, three main versions are discussed in Telegram channels and the media. The first, most popular one, is a strike by the Ukrainian air defense system from behind the front line. According to the main intelligence department, the plane began to lose altitude in the area of Yeisk, a Russian city in the northeastern part of the Azov Sea. It is 145 to 150 kilometers from the front line. Patriot missiles can strike at this distance. The first F-50 aircraft was shot down over the Sea of Azov, experts believe, also from Patriot. There the distance was even shorter, about 110 kilometers. According to the second version, the Ukrainian media, citing sources, stated that the strike was carried out by an old Soviet complex, the S-200, which had modernized missiles. Last year, the Russian military said Ukraine's armed forces were upgrading S-200 missiles to attack ground targets. In particular, as the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed, they hit the Crimean Bridge. The third version involves the application of friendly fire. This hypothesis was put forward by Russian military telegram channels based on the version about the S-200 and the targeting of friendly fire at the aircraft. They believe that the S-200 missile was launched as a decoy for Russian air defense. The missile was launched so that it could fly as close as possible to the Russian plane when Russian anti-aircraft gunners began shooting at it and hit its own side. As an example, they cite the crash of a Russian Il-22 in Syria, which, due to the maneuver of Israeli aircraft, came under fire from Syrian air defense. I note that none of these versions have yet been confirmed. Also that night in Lipetsk, drones attacked Russia's largest metallurgical plant. The fire occurred in one of the workshops, said Governor Artemonov. According to him, the special services are checking the version of the fall of the drone. I note that the Russian Ministry of Defense reported the downing of 2 drones over the Lipetsk region. Today, in the morning, Russian telegram channels began writing about the fact that the Ukrainian armed forces had left the village of Lastochkini, west of Avdiivka. It is also stated that Yevhenii, located further south, has been captured. The morning report from the General Staff says that attacks in the Lastochkini and Yevhenii areas have been repelled. Let me remind you that yesterday a lieutenant of the Ukrainian armed forces with the call sign Alex confirmed that the Russians are trying to bypass Lastochkini from the south and from the north because they failed to capture the settlement in a frontal attack. Later, the Ukrainian military confirmed the abandonment of Lastochkini. According to them, the flanks of the Ukrainian armed forces and supply routes were under threat, so a decision was made to withdraw. I note that the Ukrainian armed forces have not officially confirmed this. Also, Ukrainian telegram channels report that the situation remains difficult as Russian troops continue assault operations north and south of Lastochkini. In general, the Russians are trying to build on their success after the capture of Avdiivka and are launching an offensive near the city in several directions at once. The key question is at what borders the Ukrainian armed forces will be able to stop them and whether these defense lines have already been prepared. Following the capture of Avdiivka and Maryanka, the Russians intensified assault operations near a third settlement near Donetsk, Krasnogorovka, which also constitutes a large fortified area of the Ukrainian armed forces and an important element of the overall line of Ukrainian defense in the Donetsk direction. It is near Krasnogorovka that the only section of the front near Donetsk is located that has not moved since February 24, 2022. The Telegram channel of the 46th Brigade also writes about the beginning of the battles for this settlement. According to them, the Russians are trying to bypass Krasnogorovka on the flanks from the north through Nevelsky and from the south through Maryanka. To date, the enemy has received a repulse in both directions. Moreover, to the south of Krasnogorovka, almost in the vicinity of the city, at the same time, air raids are being carried out. The enemy is practically copying the Avdiivka situation. But the walk will not be easy. The Russians have already begun to suffer serious losses on the approaches to the city, reports the Telegram channel of the 46th Brigade. Yesterday, Bild expert Julian Ropke said that the Ukrainian armed forces had retreated back beyond the Surovikin line on the Robotyny salient. The publication recalls that in the summer, as part of a counteroffensive, the Ukrainian army liberated the village of Robotyny and created a protrusion of approximately 10 by 10 kilometers in the middle of Russian positions. They partially overcame the first fortifications of the defensive Surovikin line, including the concrete Dragon's Teeth. Recently, Russian troops launched a counterattack on Robotyny in an attempt to eliminate the salient. As Ropke reports, the Russians pushed the last Ukrainian units back behind the Surovikin line. Ukrainian attack drone footage shows that Russian forces have recaptured all previously constructed sections of the Surovikin line that they lost during the Ukrainian counteroffensive in the Zaporozhye region last summer, the analyst writes and publishes a map of Russian advances. Meanwhile, Russian Telegram channels announce the breakthrough of their forces into the center of Robotyny and publish a video. It is alleged that an assault is underway on a school located in the central part of the village, on Shevchenko Street. This has not been officially confirmed. The General Staff reported that 8 attacks were repelled near Robotyny in one day. Ukrainian Telegram channels write that in Robotyny, enemy armored vehicles drove from west to east along Cherivna Street. The Ukrainian resource Deep State also confirmed that Russian infantry had re-entered Robotyny. At the moment, the Ukrainian armed forces are counterattacking and heavy fighting is taking place. Friends, preparing these daily reports has become my full-time job, and I have no other job for obvious reasons. There have been few views on the channel lately, which is why I ask for your help. If you have the opportunity to support me financially, I would be very grateful. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.